They're a physical team, kind of a tough matchup for you guys. Talk about what kind of issues they present to your team.
They're very big, one of the biggest teams in our league. The biggest issue probably that they presented to us at our place last time we played was the fact that our press didn't bother them at all. They're a pressing team. They probably press in the full court second most to us in our league. So, when you're playing pressing teams that press each other every day in practice, sometimes it becomes ineffective, and it definitely was at our place. We ended up backing off our press and found a way to get some stops in the half court, which eventually helped us win the game.
You always talk about don't want to look at the big picture. Is the big picture getting small enough to take a look?
Not quite. Maybe one more road trip. Hopefully we can have some success this weekend, continue to improve, and win a game or two and come back and regroup.
Some things are out of your control, Michael. The fact that you guys win 2 games last week, but according to the NCAA RPI, you dropped from 42 to 51. Does that get to the little frustration stage, and how do you kind of compartmentalize that?
Well, we just try not to worry about it too much, and it was really expected. Anytime you play teams that have a lower number, they're going to drop you. And in scheduling for this season, RPI wasn't a huge factor for us. Fortunately, we've been able to win a few, and our number's been pretty high at times, and it's neat, but it's not our biggest concern.
The fact that the bracket buster game was taken away,
Yeah.
do you kind of wish that it was added back in now?
Yeah, in hindsight, that may have been a mistake on my part. Again, I didn't just bet on being 21-3 with a chance at playing a big RPI game. And I'm not sure we would have gotten it anyway. I do know we would have gone on the road this year in Bracket Buster. This would have been our last year before going into Conference USA, who doesn't participate in Bracket Buster. And so we really wanted to have, after this tough road trip we're going to take this weekend, a very long road trip, we wanted to have a home game next week. We really struggled to find a Division I game and settled on a non-Division I opponent.
Coach, talk about that road trip this weekend. Is it a good thing that you're going to Seattle before you go to Idaho because of how difficult it is to get to Moscow?
I'm not sure I'll be able to answer after the game, depending on how we play at Seattle. I think we have 2 big tests, 2 pretty good teams that I'm sure we'll be excited to play a team with an X on their back. And regardless of where those opponents are, I think they're going to be difficult.
How do you think it's going to be different the second time around facing these guys?
Well, I think both teams will be more prepared. There's a lot more familiarity. I think that our X has gotten bigger. The fact that we're out in front now, and I'm sure Seattle will be very hungry, and they'll be able to look at the film and realize some of the strengths that they have against us and some of the ways that they exposed us. So we'll have to make some adjustments. We'll have to be very, very solid. I'm excited to play in a cool city, and from what I hear is a really cool facility.
What has Isaiah done maybe that people didn't see in a game that prepared him just to play so well in this last game?
I just think he had more opportunity. His minutes went up, and just like with Chris and with Jaron, I think when most of the time minutes are rewarded for production, but it works hand in hand. A lot of times kids who just get more minutes end up producing more, good or bad. Isaiah was, for the most part, it was pretty good production the other night. I think the biggest factor with him is just the fact that he's healthy and he's learning how to trust his knee, and he's gotten past mentally, the fear that he's going to get hurt again. So when he's just playing next play, if you will, just thinking about the next play, living in the moment, playing in the moment, he's pretty good.
Coach, talk about the players. It's like every single game somebody else steps up. It's just unselfishness. Just talk about a little bit about the players and how.
A high character group of kids that really get along, that whether they're in the locker room, they're on the floor, whether they're playing pickup or going through workouts in the spring or the fall, these kids genuinely like each other. And our best 3 or 4 guys, if you can find them, could care less about how much they're scoring. They're a lot more concerned with the betterment of the team and the program, and they all understand that if we win, we all win. If we can win a championship, if we can go to the NCAA tournament, Louisiana Tech basketball wins. Therefore, everyone in the locker room wins.
all teams aspire to do that, but with young returners and then a lot of JUCO guys, how have these guys been able to gel and bond like that?
Well, I think first and foremost, my staff's done a terrific job with roster management, with having strong relationships with our kids. And secondly, I think it's the kids that simply are on the roster, and the kids that have been here and the ones that we have signed. We've made it a point to sign, again, high-character guys who want to be coached, who want to get along, who have aspirations of winning championships.
Given the physicality of Seattle and the better play of Isaiah and the more comfortable he's getting, how much of a factor will you use him Thursday night?
He'll continue to earn more and more minutes because of their size and because of the game he's coming off of. He'll probably be given the benefit of the doubt a couple more times, be given a couple more opportunities. But then, the other factors that are involved in those split-second game time decisions are foul trouble, flow of the game, and how well his teammates are playing at his position. If Mike Kaiser blocks 5 shots in the first 5 minutes, he may play 35 minutes. If he's struggling to get post position and get pushed around a little bit, Isaiah might be thrown in a little bit quicker. J.L. Lewis may have been our MVP against Seattle at home with the physicality he played with. He drew a bunch of charges and really got us going. And then Gibby Talbot's a guy that we're close to throwing in there at different times, especially against a team with size. He's coming as well.
What is Isaiah, has he done anything in practice or after practice that maybe people don't see that has made him just more comfortable on the court with his knee?
Probably, the time that he has spent with Justin Wheeler, our trainer in the training room, just the tons of rehab he's done and prehab, just strengthening his quads and his ligaments. And I think those things more than anything have given him trust with his body. The other probably big factor with him is the fact that the months that he couldn't compete and run and cut and jump, he spent at the foul line, and that's paid off for him. He's become a more skilled guy.
Yesterday, when we were talking about this on the show, Michael, the fact that football season, it was kind of like this, where the guys put together an incredible regular season, and at the end of the rainbow, there wasn't that pot of gold. And somebody called in and said, well, are we looking at the same thing with the basketball team? If they don't win the WAC tournament, is there not going to be that pot of gold? Do you recognize that analogy, and what's your comment on just?
Yeah, sure. And again, I think that's big picture, and that's something that I feel like could put a lot of pressure on our guys. That's something that we're trying to avoid. We're simply trying to get better today and preparing for Seattle, and hope that we play really well Thursday night and make some strides. At the end of the day, if we're in the conversation in another couple of weeks to win a championship, so be it. And then obviously the biggest goal, of course, every year is to win 3 in 3 days. And we're going to have an opportunity to do that. I know if we don't get better this week, we don't start playing consistently like an NCAA tournament team, we won't go to the NCAA tournament. So that's simply our mindset right now. I just think if we put too much pressure on ourselves, I think you just set yourself up for failure at the end of the year. And I think that you take away from the momentum and the opportunity to improve, so those good things can happen.
When your team has the slow starts, it seems like you turn into a different person in the huddle and you really get at them. So what do you tell them in the huddle to say, okay, guys, we got to fix things out on the court and play better?
I can't say anything on the record. I put my job in jeopardy. Sometimes kids need to be challenged, just like we all need to be challenged at times. Our mindset, for the most part, has been really, really good. Our kids lay it on the line, they leave it on the floor, they play very, very hard. But it's easier said than done to play at full throttle, 100%, as hard as you can possibly play for 40 minutes a game. That's what the best teams do. That's what we're striving to do. We don't always do that, and sometimes our kids need to be checked.
Do you think the WAC's a one-bid league?
Right now, yes, I do. Now, we could continue to do what we're doing and maybe reel off a few more and maybe be in the conversation. But I know if we don't beat Seattle, there'll be no conversation.
Is this team ahead of the curve, as many young players you have, freshmen, sophomores, juniors?
And to be honest, I've been dodging that question all year, and we probably are. I mean, if you asked me in the summer, would you be pleased with 21-3, I would have told you I'd throw a parade. You know, you'd be in the first float,
They call it
throwing
Mardi
candy. Yeah, it's a perfect day for it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we're a little bit ahead of the curve, I think. You forget this team is very, very young. I mean, we have, again, we have 2 seniors, and we only have 4 juniors, 2 of which are junior college transfers that are just a few months removed from being on JUCO campuses. So we really have 4 upperclassmen with experience that have all been starters on and off. We have a pretty high ceiling. We definitely still have room for improvement. And I just think if we continue having the correct mindset, we'll continue to improve.
You talked about wanting this team to get closer to their ceiling. Do you feel like that the past 3 home games, that they did that?
Yeah, I think that outside of the start versus Texas State, defensively we were very good. I thought defensively versus San Antonio we were really good for 40 minutes. Overall in both games over the weekend, you know, and you tend to lump 2 games in at a time when evaluating your team and at least WAC play, because we go Thursday, Saturday. But in looking at Thursday, Saturday, I thought overall offensively we took a step in terms of execution. We played 2 teams that sat in zone a bunch, and I thought for the most part we got good looks. We turned the ball a bunch. We shared it. We set better screens. We took pretty good shots, and that didn't always equate into making shots, but I thought we got pretty good ones over the weekend.
How do you feel your interior offense has improved? I mean, I know you said that was something you guys needed more of, but with Isaiah and just other people, how do you think that's improved in the last couple games?
The biggest area that it's improved is our ability to get to the foul line, and that's 1 through 5. Speedy Smith's getting to the foul line more. He's learning how to draw fouls in the paint. Alex Hamilton got in the paint over the weekend a bunch versus their zone and made a bunch of floaters and got guys shots. You know, sometimes interior production is getting just inside-outside looks. Mike Kaiser's gotten really good in the offensive glass. Isaiah Massey is pretty good with his back to the basket. So in those areas, we're headed in the right direction to get interior production, which is very, very important for us, knowing how streaky we are as a team shooting-wise.